I remember a couple of months ago, I was laying on my bed, just scrolling through YouTube videos, YouTube video after YouTube video, watching spiritual content, watching like business content, just watching all sorts of things. And I remember I had this lifeless feeling. My body was kind of just numb. I was like really restless. The thoughts in my mind were like chattering in between the videos. I was just looking for an escape. My attention's just darting around the screen. I feel kind of just hungry. I feel kind of this kind of fog has like set over my body, and my attention is just super panicky and jumping around the place. And I just feel overwhelming like restlessness and anxiety. And I'm not doing any of the things that I wanted to do that day. I had very clear goals. I had my calendar set up. I was going to do this. I was going to work on what I wanted to work on. I was going to exercise. And I remember I just felt this extreme guilt for not doing these things. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't doing them. I didn't know how doing things actually worked. I didn't know how to get stuff done. I just set my intentions. I kind of made my calendar, and then I went to sleep hoping that me in the morning is going to kind of commit to what I'd set the day before. But I didn't have trust in myself, and I didn't know whether it was going to happen. I didn't have certainty in my word. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about all the things that I learned after going through countless failures, and how I actually figured out how to get things done, and what motivation, discipline, having thoughts, like what all of this has to do with actually getting things done. And there's a lot of information out there talking about this topic. And in my personal experience, 99% of it has been kind of completely useless. And only like a small 1% of the information has actually helped me and helped me change my life. And these are kind of the foundations, the first principles of getting things done. So first we need to understand what discipline is. And discipline has lots of different definitions around this kind of YouTube hustle culture space, around spiritual, like there's lots of different definitions. But discipline essentially is not doing hard work when you don't feel like it. It's not pushing yourself. It's not kind of gritting your teeth and getting through life. Discipline is the ability to hold a thought in your mind for a prolonged period of time. So I'm going to say that again. Discipline is the ability to hold one thought in your mind for a prolonged period of time. So what that actually looks like practically is, let's say you've decided you want to go to the gym. And now that you've decided you want to go to the gym, you have the thought of going to the gym in your mind. So for the first like 3 days, that thought is present in your mind. That thought is continuously leading to actions. And so the thought stays in your mind, but then like, let's say day 6, that thought leaves your mind. And when you don't have thoughts about something, you can't act on it. And so like the fundamental chain that happens here is you have thoughts, then you have actions, then you have like your habits, and then you have your whole life basically that's consisting of these kind of automatic habits and unconscious behaviors. But it all starts with kind of a thought. And if that thought can't stay in your mind, if it constantly leaves your mind after 5 days, if you forget about it, you're not going to act on that thought naturally. And like a weird but funny like example of this is like a caveman, like let's say 100,000 years ago or 200,000 years ago, didn't have the desire to scroll on YouTube. I know that sounds super silly, but like naturally, if the inputs aren't there, the thoughts aren't there, and there's no stimuli, then there's just no like incentive to actually act on that thing. So in the same way, if your thoughts, like if those thoughts don't exist, you're not going to do those things. And this is just the whole essence of discipline. And nobody speaks about this. It's how can you hold that thought in your mind for a prolonged period of time? That is the key. Like that's the only difference between you and someone who actually does the work. That thought is staying in their mind. Think of that thought as like the thought is sticky, or it's like it's kind of lodged into their mind in a way that it's not if you keep kind of not doing the things that you want to do. And now let's speak a little bit about like, how do you actually get that thought to stay in your mind? So there's a few ways to get a thought to stay in your mind. So the first is, don't crowd out that thought with other useless thoughts. So what that looks like in practice is, don't just consume a bunch of content every day unrelated to that thought. So if you're doom scrolling on YouTube for 3 hours, you're constantly getting bombarded by like sensory inputs. And those sensory inputs lead to thoughts, which then lead to actions, which then lead to your habits, which then lead to your life. So if you cut it off at the sensory section, then you're not going to be inclined to do kind of stupid shit unrelated to your goals. So what that means is like, craft that environment. Like, your environment currently is sending you signals constantly. So it could be your phone, it could be like the movies you watch, it could be the people that you speak to. They're constantly sending you signals, and those signals are turning into thoughts. And so the ones that you really feel like aren't conducive for your goal, you need to kind of be able to cut those out at the root, so that you stop like having like 10 different thoughts in your mind pulling you in different directions. Like an analogy that my friend gave, which was just incredible. When I explained this concept, he thought of this analogy where it's like, imagine you're driving down the road and you've got like one hand on the steering wheel, and maybe you've got two hands on the steering wheel. You're going down, and that's like your mind, like the car is your mind. And having multiple thoughts would be like having 10 hands on the steering wheel, dragging you in different directions. What's going to end up happening is you're going to keep crashing into the side of the road. And that's kind of how most people live their lives. They have like 100 thoughts, all pulling them in different directions in their mind. And they just keep crashing into the side of the road. And kind of cutting down the amount of inputs allows you to cut down the amount of thoughts and allows you to kind of drive more smoothly. And this links to getting things done. When you have like a singular thought or maybe two thoughts in your mind for like predominantly like throughout the day, then you're going to be focused, you're going to be directed, and the things that you think are actually going to manifest into actions and then results as well. However, this isn't just cut and dry. So if the thoughts and the goals that you're trying to kind of align with and to keep in your mind are not compatible with your body and your mind, then your mind is going to reject them, and you're going to do everything that you can to self-sabotage. So what does this mean? If your intention to do this activity is coming from a desire or a should, your motivation is going to be faulty. These aren't going to be aligned with who you actually are. If you want to be able to do things and for them to be really easy and to feel like your body wants to do them, you need to first understand what is compatible with your body and what you actually want to do. And so this comes to this other sources of motivation, which is your like duty or your purpose or your values. So you can either have motivation from your desires and some shoulds. So shoulds are like societal like expectations that you don't actually want to do. And desires are things that lead to short-term pleasure, but lead to pain in the long run. And the other sources of motivation are your purpose, which leads to pain, or your duty leads to pain in the short term, but like spiritual and kind of personal growth in the long term. And the other thing is your values, which you enjoy doing. Like maybe you enjoy working out. In the short term, it makes you feel happy and it leads to good results in the long term as well. And so you've got your values, you've got your purpose, and then you've got desires and you've got shoulds. So most people have what they want to do aligned with this first category of desires and shoulds. They're doing it because their parents told them. They're doing it because they feel powerless. And if you have motivations that stem from these things, they will never be sustainable motivations. You will always keep relapsing because these things are a shaky foundation. If it's aligned with your values and like a certain responsibility you have to society or to yourself or a mission, then these are going to be the unshakable foundations that if you really align yourself with these, you're going to notice that things become so much easier. However, you need to actually figure out these things. And this is why this isn't kind of like a easy fix. And I've found this to like be a long gradual process of realigning and discovering your values, discovering what you're actually kind of here to do. Like, what is your goal? Like, what direction do you want to go in? And so these things take time, effort, energy, questioning, and contemplation to actually figure out. And so I'm going to link a worksheet at the bottom of this video that actually will give you like a template to go through and contemplate some of these things. Like, what percentage of your motivations are coming from desires, shoulds, purpose, or what was the last one? Purpose, values. Yes, values. So it's going to list those 4 things, and then you're going to be able to like contemplate and ask yourself these questions, and it's going to explain like in more clarity what each one is, and it should be really helpful. And there's like a few techniques at the bottom as well that actually enhance your discipline. But with that all being said, you still need kind of this missing ingredient. And like I found this to be the case. Like even after I understood these things, I was kind of relapsing into my old behaviors. I was still not being able to get things done. But this last ingredient is kind of key. And that's kind of humility and courage paired together. So you need to be humble, and you need to understand that you can't just expect crazy things from yourself. You need to do baby steps. And you need to have a little bit of courage. You need to like try overcoming the small obstacles first and then building your way up. You can't just say, oh, okay, now I know my values, I know my purpose. Tomorrow I'm going to like achieve it all and I'm going to face all my fears. You need to have some humility and kind of self-reflection and awareness, and really take it one step at a time, and to really nurture and foster that element of courage that you have. Like a lot of the problem with discipline is not facing our fears. Like we're kind of not courageous enough to confront the fears that we have. So you need to start small and slowly build that courage up to the point where you're slowly but steadily conquering those fears that kind of hold you back, those limiting beliefs, those ideas on things that stop you from pursuing the things that you actually want. And so that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle, a bit of courage and a bit of humility. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in this video. I really found these ideas helpful. And I think a lot of the things on YouTube and just elsewhere talk about very, I guess, superficial things when it comes to getting things done, like this one little trick that's going to make you have infinite discipline. But the reality of it is you have to do a lot of contemplation. You have to think about what you want to do a lot, and you need to really get to know yourself and to face your fears one step at a time. And this can be a long process. Like, I'm not even joking. Like the next year of your life could be just spent aligning yourself with what you want to do. And it probably will be, especially if you're new to that stage of like figuring out what you want to do. But this is the only way to reliably gain like a source of motivation. Sure, you could probably do everything from fear, but you will suffer a lot, and the people around you will suffer as well if you're trying to do things from fear and insecurity. So yeah, this is just a video explaining these more fundamental concepts. I'll have the worksheet down below, and you can kind of check it out and contemplate and make a copy of it into your like Google Docs or whatever. And it should really help you gain some more clarity into who you are and where you want to go, essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much it from this video. Hopefully you found it valuable. And if you enjoyed it, you can like and subscribe. And I'm going to be releasing more of these kind of valuable, fundamental like principles that I've learned in my life that actually help me live like a more fulfilling life, that help me get things done, that help me feel just happy and relaxed. Like there's a few different like topics and ideas that I have in mind, but if you have anything in mind as well, comment down below. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. Take care.